You're listening to episode 1 of the Fearless English podcast. Welcome to the Fearless English podcast, where it's all about helping you confidently communicate with anyone without compromising who you are. Let's get started, Fearless Learner. Hello, Fearless Learner, and welcome to the very first episode of the Fearless English podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. So today's topic is going to be about my English learning journey. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of the things that I went through as a learner. And the reason I chose this topic is because, like you, I'm also an English learner. And I've been learning English for the past 27 years. And I haven't stopped. So I want to, first of all, get that misconception out of the way. Many students ask me, how long did it take you to learn English? It's a lifelong thing. I still check the meaning of words. I still make mistakes when I write a word. I still make grammar mistakes when I'm speaking. So it is a continuous thing. And I want you to know that it's this whole journey. There's ups and downs. Sometimes you're going to feel frustrated. Sometimes you're going to feel like giving up. Sometimes you're going to feel super excited to be able to say the correct word when you are communicating. So the reason I want to share this story with you today is because I want you to understand that, like you, I'm also an English learner, and I know how it feels like to be where you are right now. So let's get started. Let me share the story with you. So it all started in 1994 when I immigrated from Somalia, and I came to the country as an illiterate. So I had no prior education. I didn't know how to speak English. I didn't know how to write or read in any other language. And I began my journey here in the UK, in London. Now, I remember my first day in school learning about where I was supposed to be. I got introduced to the class. The teacher told me to sit right at the back, and I was just fascinated by everything. I was fascinated that there were other students there. I didn't really understand what was going on, but I was happy to be there. I appreciated and I was grateful for the experience that I was given. So, just to share how basic my English was, I remember when I was in the living room just before I went to school, and my sister was like, I want you to know that there are two ways to say no, right? I mean, I don't remember exactly how she said it, but she said it in my language, Swahili, Barawa, which is a language similar to Swahili, but it's got a mixture of Italian and Arabic and Swahili mixed together, and that's what it's called, Barawa. Not many people speak this language. But anyway, let's get back to my sister. And she said, I want you to know that if you want to say no, for a female, you say now. And for males, you say no. So I was super excited to learn the very first word. So when I went to school, the students asked me, do you have your PE kit? So PE kit is the clothes you wear to play sports in school. And obviously I didn't have my PE kit at the time. I didn't even know that what you needed to bring to school. And so when they said that to me, I said, now, because they were pointing at the PE kit, and I said, now. And they were looking at me and they said, do you have your PE kit now? Yes, do you have it now? And I kept saying now. And one of the students understood that that meant no. And she said, I think she means no. So can you imagine that's where I started? I didn't know the difference between how to say no, like that everybody says no, male or female. So thanks, sis. So that was like the very beginning of my journey. And although like I began with nothing, I was super curious. Teacher assigned a student and she was my partner. And I'm not sure if she was assigned or she just decided to help me. But I used to ask her everything. What is the that called? That is the bin. So I would repeat bin, bin, bin. And I would try and use the words as quickly as possible because I needed to use the language as quickly as I could. That was the only form of communication. So it was really important that I learned the language as quickly as possible. So I was a very curious child. I asked lots of questions and I learned English. I think within a year, I was able to communicate. And I remember the teacher actually gave me a certificate to say, hey, like, well done for learning English so fast. And I remember that day and I was just so happy to receive a certificate. But at the same time, like there were things that I didn't like about learning English. I didn't like the fact that I was taken out of classes. Teacher saying, Halima, please go with the teacher. It just made me feel so embarrassed. I felt like, oh my God, why do I have to come out of class to learn English? This is something that, made me feel inadequate. I felt different. I didn't feel like I fitted in. So coming out of classes, although it was beneficial for me, it just made me feel like I was stupid. It made me feel like I was less intelligent than everybody else around me. So I didn't enjoy those parts. Then when I moved to secondary school, it got a little bit worse because there was like a differentiation between lower classes and higher classes. And I had completed tests and immediately I was put into the lowest group for everything. All the students in school found out that I was in the lowest school for all my classes. So there was a lot of bullying. Oh, you're in the lowest class for all your subjects. And I felt, I think I bullied myself the most because that was like evidence that I wasn't good enough. And so from that point on, my life shifted where all I tried to do from that day on, was to make sure that people knew I wasn't stupid. I made sure that people knew that I was smart. And that shifted everything for me. I started reading, so I would go to the library and I started reading books. And I didn't tell anyone that I was going to the library. And this helped me a lot with my development. Starting my reading journey was probably the best thing I could have done for my English speaking and reading and writing skills. And this was, the best thing I could have done, I think. And I want you to understand how important it is. If you have children, get them to read, get them to read as much as you can get them to sit down. From babies, I would say, get them to, not get them to read. Obviously, you have to read for them, but start at a very young age with your children if you want them to develop their English skills. Reading is probably one of the best like things I can really think of when it comes to children and their English development. Start very young, or if you haven't started young, start as soon as you can. So that is like my basic English learning journey. I didn't give you all the details, but I felt so much frustration in different times, like taking exams and I couldn't understand what the question was in the exam. It just made me feel silly, it made me feel like, why can't I understand? And if I could go back in time, which I don't have any regrets, but if I could go back in time, I would give myself more opportunity to learn English. I would start reading at a younger age. I would take classes. Yeah, I would take more classes. But at the time, I remember there was no internet. So all the opportunities you guys get right now, there was none of that back in the day. So can't really change the past. But what I can do is help you make the right decisions and not make the mistakes that I made. Well, we've reached the end of the podcast and I'm over the moon you've listened until now. I hope you enjoyed listening to my English learning journey and it inspires you to fully experience the journey instead of focusing on the destination. Have a great week, fearless learner, and I'll speak to you next week. Peace. If you enjoyed today's lesson, then you'll love our speaking club, where we take what we learn in these lessons and put it into action. You'll get to meet other women and practice speaking English every week for an hour. All you have to do is go to www.blackboardenglish.com/cup. I'll say that again, www.blackboardenglish.com/cup. Let's work together to help you become a confident English speaker. See you in class.